What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some more tier lists for you guys. Seeing as the transfer window slammed shut last week, we're here to bring you a tier list of Spurs' last 20 most expensive signings for Tottenham Hotspur, and it goes from Bryan Gil all the way up to Tanguy Ndombele. So I was going to say I'm looking forward to this one, but there has been a lot of not great signings, shall we say.
We don't have a great record when we spend a lot of money, put it that way. So we'll see how we get on with how we're ranking all these 20 players. But for all the people demanding we spend more money, it's not going to make for a pretty reading. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, well, let's get straight into it. And you can see as the tiers, they go from 1 star all the way to 5 star. Obviously, 1 star being the worst, 5 star being the best. So let's get into it and start off with Bryan Gil. I think we signed him for 25 million plus Erik Lamela from Sevilla, was it? I think. Yeah, from Sevilla. I mean, he hasn't really pulled up too many trees at Spurs, Bryan Gil. I don't think he's been given the fairest crack of the whip, to be honest. But, I mean, can you really put in anything above 1 star?
You can't, because he hasn't had enough games. He's been here, what is this now, his 3rd season at Spurs?
We signed him in 21-22.
He's had 2 loan deals. He's done okay on them, but hasn't exactly pulled up any trees on those loan deals. Has barely played a game for Tottenham as well. It's been a very frustrating time for him. I still believe he's a good player. But at the end of the day, like, we gave Lamela for free, and he's probably better off keeping him.
And we keep signing wingers as well.
Yeah, we keep signing wingers. So, look, I'm hoping it will change, and I believe it will change, but it's only a 1 star.
I think this season, or maybe not this season, but under Ange Postecoglou is his best opportunity to change. But Bryan Gil goes into 1 star. Next up is Ryan Sessegnon. 30 million, well, it says here 27 million euro transfer from Fulham in 2019. He has been terrible pretty much ever since joining us, to be honest.
1 star.
1 star.
It's a shame because, again, another player who came with high promise and high potential was really good for Fulham in the Championship. He was like a wonder kid, which you'd never seen.
He was 16 years old.
Yeah, but 16 years, and he scored like 15 goals in the Championship or something like that. And this thought he was going to be like a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent, but unfortunately hasn't turned out like that. He hasn't really got his best position yet still at, 24. No manager's really made him his number 1 choice. He can't stay fit as well, which is the main issue. Has to be a 1 star.
Next up is Lucas Moura, signed for 28.4 million euros from PSG in the January transfer window of 2018. Obviously, he's had some unbelievable moments in a Spurs shirt. I would say that he's never done it on a consistent basis like we would have hoped, but I think he definitely gets a few bumps up for those magical moments that he has brought us, especially the one, obviously, in Ajax. That springs to everyone's mind. But there has been other moments, remember that game against United at Old Trafford when he scored 2 goals leading the line.
Hat-trick against Huddersfield.
Oh, the magical moments. So I think like with Lucas Moura, if it wasn't for that night in Amsterdam, you're probably looking at like a 2-star signing. Because of the night in Amsterdam, I want to give him a 3 star.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. And I think he was always a pretty solid squad player up until maybe his final 18 months at Spurs. I thought even I remember under Mourinho, he had a good spell where he was coming into the team playing centrally, and he was a good squad player then. I thought very often in Europe, he was much better in Europe than he was in the Premier League. Europa League, he scored a lot of goals. Champions League, he was a massive part of that run, not just the Ajax as well. Barcelona, he scored. I remember in the group stages, he made some crucial goals as well. Man City came in for the quarterfinal and played really well. So I think in Europe he was really good.
That whole run to the final.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah,
he was really good, very important. So I thought he was always a solid squad player. Never really hit the heights we hoped, but 3 star.
Yeah. Next up is Yves Bissouma, signed last summer for 29.2 million euros from Brighton. This is a really difficult one to judge because last season he didn't have the best time of it, couldn't really get a solid run in the team. But obviously in the first 4 games of the season, he's looked like our best player. So how do you judge this one?
4 star for me because you can't get, because of his first season, you can't give him a 5 star because obviously he had his difficulties, didn't quite show the Bissouma when you were at Brighton. But cast your mind back a year ago, 25 million for Bissouma at that time was seen as a really, really good price for the player we got at Brighton. Now, the year since, he hasn't really been the better player we got at Brighton, but now he is becoming again that player we got at Brighton. So
very small sample size.
Yeah, small sample size, but it's enough for me to suggest that. Couple that with the fact that what we did see at Brighton on a consistent basis, it was more than a year we saw that at Brighton. So now we're seeing that we know he can do it consistently. Now he's got the platform to do it. He becomes a 4-star signing and probably will be a 5-star signing by the end of the season, in my opinion. But because that difficult first year, you can't quite put him in 5. But the price is cheap, 25 million for a player of his quality, and now we're starting to see what he's really about. So 4-star.
All right. Yves Bissouma goes into 4-star. Next up is Heung-min Son, and there's only one place for Heung-min Son, and that is a 5-star signing. 30 million euros from Bayer Leverkusen in 15-16, just before the 15-16 season. And I would even go as far to say that this is one of our best ever signings in Tottenham's history.
100%. And obviously, easiest decision we're going to have to make on this tier list is putting Son in that 5-star. 22 million pounds at the time for a winger forward who, no one would say no one heard of him, but no one was expecting the talent we kind of got with Heung-min Son. Has developed into being one of the best finishers in Europe. The longevity and the loyalty he's given to us as well can't be discounted, and the level of performance is astonishing. So for me, 5-star signing all day long.
And obviously holds that record in the Premier League, doesn't he? Most goals as a partner with Harry Kane. So next up, and he also won a Golden Boot one year, which is crazy. So next up is Erik Lamela, £30 million signing from Roma in the 13-14 season. I mean, he was supposed to come in as the replacement for Gareth Bale. Didn't really do that, but he did have, again, like, he was very much a moments player. He had really good moments for Spurs. The countless amounts of Rabonas he scored. The first one against Asterias Tripoli. The second one against Arsenal, which is probably the best goal ever in a North London derby. But he did get sent off that game. But the key thing is that game just encapsulated Lamela. He does a Rabona, like literally one of the best goals ever. And then like 20 minutes later, he's getting sent off and we lose the game. But what you got to say is Lamela, he always wore his heart on his sleeve. He always gave 100%. He always was good for a booking. And I think he was very valuable to us in like the big games where we really needed to show some grit. So I actually think like we sold Lamela at the wrong time. I think we should have actually kept him, to be honest. And I thought he would have been a good player for Conte. For me, I would like to put him in 3, but I think he probably only goes in 2.
You reckon? I think he goes in 3, considering the longevity he gave us. Always a really valuable squad player as well.
Always available, because he was never
not always
available.
No, that was a big question. He was never ever I can't remember a player with worse injury record than Erik Lamela at Tottenham.
That's the thing.
If you talk about his first 2 seasons at Spurs as well, you're talking about 1-star signing, because it was really difficult for him in those first 2 seasons. He got very little game time. He found it really, really hard to adjust to life at Spurs. You got to remember when we signed him from Roma, he'd just come off the back of like a 16-goal season, and we never saw that at Tottenham. Not one season did we see that. And considering it was 30 million, there are a lot of negatives, but I thought whenever he was called upon, he was pretty good. He was a pretty good squad player. He was always very valued by his managers, by Pochettino and Mourinho. So I think he made a lot of difference as well when coming off the bench in a lot of games. And I think the season we challenged Leicester for the league, I thought he had a really good season that season. So I think he had his moments. Maybe for 30 million, we probably...
It was a record signing at the time.
Yeah, so you're probably just a little disappointed from what we got at the end of the day. But he was here for a long, long time, wasn't he? He was here from 2013 till 2021, so 8 years.
I would say, like, in a similar way, it is a bit similar to the Lucas Moura signing, where you expected a lot more, and they just never had that consistency in terms of output. But the difference is Moura has that night in Amsterdam, and Lamela doesn't. Lamela's got a Rabona in a loss in the North London derby. So for that, I would say he's a level below Lucas Moura.
All right, that makes sense. Good logic. 2-star.
Lamela goes in number 2. Next up is Sergio Reguilon, another £30 million signing from Real Madrid in the 2021 season. I mean, when we signed him, he was supposed to be the best up-and-coming left-back in Europe. He just won, I think, the Europa League with Sevilla and played a massive part in that. And I thought he started life for Spurs really well. The first 6 months, I thought he was brilliant. But then after that, I mean, he just never really hit those heights again. He had his injury problems as well. I mean, I don't think Reguilon has been a good signing for us whatsoever. I wouldn't say go as far to say as like maybe 1-star, maybe like 1.5 star.
I think 1, to be honest. When you end up loaning a player out with who have no suitors whatsoever, no one's interested in him. You get him on a 6-month loan deal, you have to pretty much give him away. When you spend 30 million on a player and 2 years later, that's the situation. I think it's been a pretty big disaster, to be honest. And unfortunately, his career has nosedived, I have to say. And it's a shame to say, because I do think there's a good left back in there. And I do think even at Tottenham, at times at Spurs, he was good and underrated, in my opinion. A lot of people complained about his level of performance a lot of the time, but I thought he was a good player. But unfortunately, you know, last season was awful for him at Atletico. Barely played a minute. He's come back to Spurs. No one wants to buy of him. No one wants to spend any money on him. The best he can do is a 6-month loan deal, which can be broken in January because Luke Shaw is injured. That's the best he can do in terms of finding a club. It's been a disaster, and it's likely we're not going to get any sort of money back for a 30 million purchase. So I don't think his performances, however decent they were for Tottenham, were good enough to justify that. So I think it's 1 star.
All right, we'll go for 1 star. Sergio Reguilon goes to the bottom barrel. Next up is big old Bobby Soldado.
Oh, Bobby.
30 million at the time from Valencia, 13-14. And I think at the time when we signed him, he was the highest scorer in La Liga outside of Messi and Ronaldo. And we thought we were getting an absolute world-class. Well, to be honest, I remember having the conversation at the time, and I remember telling you he was going to flop before he signed for us. And you were like, nah, how can he flop? Look how many goals he's scoring for Valencia. But alas, he did flop. I don't ever think we ever played to his strengths, to be honest. And I also thought, like, he always gave 100%. The fans always backed him right until the end. But essentially, he just could never get on the score sheet, really. I thought he did everything really well up until he got into that scoring position, and then he just fluffed his lines every time.
To be fair, he did like his other bits decently. I don't even think he was amazing in the other parts. It's just the other parts always got enhanced because he just couldn't score for love nor money, especially from open play. He could take a penalty, all right, but when it got to open play, the guy just couldn't get near the goal, let alone score. Like, it wasn't even a case of like, it wasn't even like a Fernando Torres case where Torres just had like a string of unbelievable misses and he had all these chances, but he just couldn't put it in the net. Like, Soldado barely got a chance. Like, in open play, he just got so easily marked out the game. It didn't help that we were pretty dog shite pretty much when he was here. Like, we really struggled. AVB was really struggling. We struggled to create an opportunity alone, away from Soldado, but he gave it 2 years. And I think what really summed up his moment, I knew the moment I really knew his career was dead was that moment against Fiorentina when he had a 2-on-1. It was a big Europa League game for us. He had a 2-on-1. He had Chadley to his left, and he was 1-on-1 with the keeper. No defenders around him all the time in the world, and he's so not confident. He tries a little layoff to Chadley, but he underhits it so badly, it just goes straight to the keeper. And I was like, okay, this guy is done for. Yeah. When a striker like that is doing that, you know his confidence is shot. And to be honest, even after Spurs, his career never really recovered from his Tottenham spell. He never really became the striker he was at Valencia, so has to be a 1 star.
Bobby Soldado, but I always rated him for the effort. He never like kind of down tools in terms of like effort on the pitch. Bobby Soldado. But next up is Steven Bergwijn, another £30 million signing from PSV Eindhoven. We signed him at 22 years of age in the 1920 season. Great debut, scoring against Manchester City with a lovely goal. I don't think he ever got the chances that maybe he deserved against Conte. He was always the last thought coming on with like 1-2 minutes left to go. But, I mean, he never really produced anything in a Spurs shirt, did he?
Yeah, he had the debut and he had the Leicester game. Two iconic moments, to be honest, especially the Leicester one, which was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. So it wasn't quite an Ajax moment, but still really good.
Does he get a bumped up mark for that?
Yeah, I would say he wasn't a 1 star because I think he provided value for the team when he was on the pitch. And I thought he was a good player. We also got our money back for him as well. So it wasn't like we lost a bunch of money when we sold him. I don't think he's as good as 3 star because he was only here for 18 months and he couldn't get a consistent run of starts. But no, how long was he here? No, more than 18 months, 2.5 years. 2.5 years.
Yeah, because we signed him in the January
2020 and we sold him in 2022.
We sold him last summer, yeah.
In 2022, yeah. So 2.5 years. So good player. Wasn't awful. Wasn't great. Lucas was there a bit longer. So I'll go for 2 star.
But I would say Lamela should be above him, though.
I think they're pretty similar level. Just Lamela did what Bergwijn did for a longer period, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. But doesn't longevity count?
I guess, but no, but the difference is we had to give Lamela away, and Bergwijn we got our money back.
All right, fine. I'll give you that one. Next up is Decky, 30 million from Juventus. Signed him at 23 in the 23 to 24 season, January. Unbelievable first 6 months. One of the best players in the Premier League in that time. Probably the best right winger in the Premier League in that period. But last season was a massive letdown for Dejan Kulusevski. He scored 2 goals. And I think he got like 1 or 2 assists.
7 assists.
7 assists, sorry.
Wasn't that bad, yeah.
7 assists. But when
9 goal contributions.
When you're judging last season, you're saying it was a massive flop of a season for Kulusevski, in my opinion, as to what he gave us in the first 6 months.
Well, look, he got more goal contributions in the first 6 months than he did in the whole of last season. I still think he played well in a lot of games, to be honest. I don't think it was a disaster of a season like a lot of people are saying. I still think he was good, but I just think he was really underwhelming compared to the heights he set. And also, like, as a general winger, I mean, look, to be fair, he's still young. Now he's like 23. I think last season 22, signed him at 21. So he's still got a lot of age on his side. I think we got him at a decent price. I still look at him now and I still see a really good player. I know he's not getting the goals and assists that we hoped he'd get and that he did get. But I think that will come. I'm looking at him now. I'm still seeing a very good player. I really am. And a lot of people are giving him a hard time because the output's not there. I think the general play is still there. I still think he's contributing to the team. I'm not looking at him thinking like, it's not like a Richarlison situation where, things are bouncing off him and he can't play football for love nor money. I still think he's doing good stuff on the pitch, but he's getting his clinical edge and decision making wrong at the moment, and that's something he's got to work on. But I still think it's a 4-star signing. Can't quite put him in 5 because he's dipped, but I still think it's 4.
I actually think it's like 3.5, like somewhere in between 3 and 4 right now, just because of the output he's put over the last year. To be honest, I think for the player that we bought in the first 6 months, I expected so much more from him last season, so much more, and at the
but it wasn't just him, was it?
No, but he's the one that we're judging right now.
Yeah, but he's a good player. The whole team was a problem, so you can judge Son harshly on that as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean Son has so many different variables where that works in his favour. Kulusevski doesn't.
Yeah, Son has more credit in the bank, but I think if you take Kulusevski's whole time at Tottenham, all his games and goals and assists per game, it's probably not a bad total.
Is it? I mean,
it's probably not bad.
The first 6 months was monstrous, was really good, but he's been at Spurs for much longer than that. He's had a whole season since then, from last season, and unfortunately for him, last season is the biggest part of his Spurs career.
Of course, because that's the whole season. But I'm saying overall, I think let's see, his stats for Tottenham: 62 games, 16 assists and 8 goals overall, which is 24 goal contributions in 62 games. I think for a 23-year-old or 24, for a young winger, it's not bad.
It's not exactly great. I mean, we were sitting here harping on about how he's better than Bukayo Saka, and look at the numbers that Bukayo Saka pulls up.
Yeah, Saka's generational. He would be up
there.
Yeah,
but what I'm saying is that me and you were both arguing that he's better than Bukayo Saka in that period.
Yeah, and last season, unfortunately, wasn't great. I still believe in him. I really do. I would still have him at 4-star. I think for a winger of his age, getting good numbers, I think hopefully he'll get back to the levels that we first saw as well. I don't think we paid that, the price we paid for him as well was not too much. You're talking about the price we paid for Kulusevski was a bit more than Bergwijn or Moura, and look at the player we're getting. So I think it's 4-star.
To be honest, I do really like Kulusevski and I like to persist with him. I do question about his suitability to the system that we're playing now. And I guess only time will tell what happens with him and Brennan Johnson. But let's say, for example, Brennan Johnson, gets that starting spot of hell of Kulusevski, and he's our starting right winger for now until the end of the season. I mean, are you really, come the end of the season, if that happens, put him in 4-star?
It's hard to say. What if Kulu's a super sub and he gets a goal every time he comes on? I don't know. It's too. I can't. That's not enough to judge it on. You know what I mean? And look, you're telling me if he never plays from now to the end of the season,
obviously he's going to play. But so I'm saying if Brennan Johnson is the starter.
Yeah, but what does Kulusevski do when he comes on?
I mean,
you know what I mean? I need more information than that. to give him a rating at the end of the season. If you're saying if he's never going to play and Johnson's starting every game,
regardless,
I just think he's done well. I think he's a good player,
regardless of what he does from the bench. It's like if you're not starting week in week out, then you probably don't deserve to be starting week in week out. And Brennan Johnson will be the one deserving to start week in week out. So if he's not like a consistent guy on the right wing and Brennan Johnson gets the nod ahead of him, that means Kulusevski wouldn't have deserved to be starting week in week out.
Yeah, and
that means he can't be a 4-star. But anyway, we're judging it from
judging it on a hypothetical with Kulu.
It's just a hypothetical. I'm not saying.
I know, but I'm trying to work out
how
am I supposed to rate it based on that hypothetical? I can't. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, I'd put him in 4-star.
I'll go with you just because I like him so much and I like his songs.
Exactly.
But I think he needs to be doing better.
Fair enough.
Next up is Giovani Lo Celso. 24 when we signed him, 2021, 32 million. I think it was a bit more than that actually, but
I think we paid a 15 million loan fee and then 27 up front on top of that. So about I think the add-ons never really got reached. Probably I would say his add-ons. Unfortunately,
he's been in and out of this team with loan spells. He had one good spell under Jose Mourinho when he was like our best player for like a few games. Mm-hmm. Apart from that, there's just nothing in there for Lo Celso. He's got to go on 1-star.
Has to be. Look, he's still here, and Ange is giving him another lease of life, hopefully. So he's got his chance to change it.
He gets half a point for still being here.
He look, if he can change it, he can change it. But I think at the moment 1-star. Can't disagree with that.
Next up, Moussa Sissoko, 35 million from Newcastle at the age of 27 in the 16-17 season. I mean, he started off terribly. He was literally a meme throughout the whole of the Premier League and inside the Spurs fan base. But he endeared himself to the Spurs fan base with his hard work. I wouldn't say like footballing quality, but he gave us a lot on the pitch, and he was very pivotal to us in getting in that Champions League run, him starting pretty much every game. And in that period when we were, lacking massively in midfield, he did give us something. So he's not a 1-star.
No.
I kind of don't even want to put him in 2-star, but that's probably where he deserves to be.
Yeah, I think he deserves to be in 2-star. 30 million at that time as well, in 2016, was more money than it is now. So we spent a lot of money on him. We could have got Mane for very similar money, and we went for Sissoko as well. And what we got was a player who I never really thought was very good under Poch. I think he had his moments in that Champions League run. He had his moments, but I don't think he was quality-wise. He was never very good of a player.
He got better under Jose.
Yeah, under Mourinho, he was good. He improved, but I still never think. Look, Sissoko was still a player which like when he played well, it was surprising. You know what I mean? So like when you saw him have a good game, it's like, oh, Sissoko had a good game today.
And even when he had even when that happened for like 6 months straight, even after like the 7th month, you're like, wow, Sissoko
still playing well. What? So but like I felt like that like excitement of him actually just having a good game overshadowed like even the flaws in his when he was playing well, because you were just so relieved that he just wasn't a shower of shit basically, that it was like you were willing to not overlook some of his flaws when he's playing well just because he's having a good game. So for me, he was never good, really. He was never good enough. We always looked to upgrade. He was always the most upgradable player on the pitch throughout his time at Tottenham. So I think considering the money, he has to go 2-star, but he did have some good periods which keeps him from a 1-star.
All right, Moussa Sissoko goes into 2-star. Next up is Micky van de Ven. 40 million euros from Wolfsburg this summer. Obviously, he started life amazingly, to be honest. He's taken to the Premier League like a duck to water. It's hard to put him in a ranking because he's only had like 4 games for Spurs.
He's looking like a 5-star, though.
He's looking like a
5-star.
But I think just because he hasn't been here for long enough, we probably have to put him in 4.
But I remember Capoue had a very good start to life at Tottenham as well, and it didn't really pan out well. So you never know what was around the corner.
I think we put him in 4.
Yeah, 4-star for now. He's considering 40 million euros, which is not a bad price. With a position we've needed so badly, and he's looked dynamite so far. So put him in 4.
Next up is Pedro Porro, signed last January for 40 million from Sporting Lisbon. Well, he started on loan, but then we signed him. 23 years of age when we signed him. From when we signed him to the end of the season, I was like very much a mixed bag. Like going forward, he looked dynamite. The other way, I mean, you just look at his debut against Leicester where he got absolutely ripped apart. And he got ripped apart a few times last season. But since the start of this season, since he come into the team second game in, he's looked really good.
Yeah, I'd probably put him in 3, just because it was quite expensive. I think it was at 40 million, over 40 million for a player who we brought in to be a specified one position. Now he's learning a new position and he's doing well. And obviously he's got an amazing pass, amazing crossing, still got a lot of deficiencies on the other side of his game, which he is working on improving, but I'm still not 100% convinced even now of his qualities in that area. So he's not like a, Van de Ven where he's, done not a foot wrong or anything like that. He's shown a lot of flaws, and for the money we paid, you might have been able to get a player with less flaws than him, but I think maybe by the end of the season he'll be a 4 or 5. But I think now he's considering the money, it's a 3.
All right, Pedro Porro goes into 3. Next up is a very easy one to rank, which is Davinson Sanchez, 42 million from Ajax as a 21-year-old in the 17-18 season. He's finally just gone. And as you can see, straight into 1 star.
Yeah, we've
shocking signing.
We've wanted to rid of him for a while, haven't we? That's the reality. I think all the managers, each one has tried to sell him, and he's and we've been unsuccessful. Had one good season, in his first season where he looked like a promising defender, but never improved once. He's not even better than when we signed him now.
He's actually regressed probably a year.
Yeah, and he's become less confident. Look, he had his good games, North London derby in the 3-0 win. He was crucial in that run to top 4 at the end. So he had a few moments, but by and large, when we relied upon him, whenever he's had a stretch of games, he's always let us down, just every time.
That's the thing.
So
you can have him in from the odd game here and there. It's fine, but that's why I didn't really want to sell him at this stage without bringing him, because if you bring him in for just one game here, one game there, it's actually all right. But if over a long stretch, it's never going to happen. So Davinson goes in to 1 star. Next up is James Maddison, obviously signed this summer. It says here 46 million euros.
Yeah, about 40 million pounds.
26 years old, 23, 24. I know he's only been here for 4 games, but with the money that we paid for him, and you're seeing all the other transfers that are going on at the moment, Mason Mount, Caicedo, Declan Rice, blah, blah, blah. I think he goes straight into 5-star signing. He's shown an elite level since he's come here. He was pulling up amazing numbers even before he came to Spurs. He's already got the vice captaincy, and the value for money was incredible. So I think 5-star.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. I think you have to take into account, because we haven't seen that much of him, even though what we have seen has been exceptional. You have to take into account how good he was at Leicester as well, and the price we're getting him compared to what he was showing at Leicester, compared to what other players in this position are also going for right now. And I think we've gotten an amazing price. I think he's a superb quality player. I believe he's probably our best. He's definitely our best creative midfielder since Eriksen as well, and maybe has potential to be better than Eriksen as well. I'm super impressed by him. He has to be a 5-star for now.
Next up is Cristian Romero, £50 million signing from Atalanta at the age of 24 in the 22-23 season. So he's going into his 3rd season now, Cristian Romero. He's also vice captain of the team, and I think he's taken up a notch since getting that vice captaincy. It was a poor season from him last season, like it was everyone else. But I think we all said consistently, we can see the qualities this guy has. We can see he's a top defender. He's a World Cup winner, and he was very central to that World Cup winning team as well. And we all said, get a good centre-back next to him and you'll see the true Cristian Romero, and we are seeing that now. So even though I said, because Kulusevski had a poor season, it's 3, but I think it's a different case with Romero, because I think we always said it. You just need that partner next to him and he'll flourish. And I think you're seeing that now. So 5-star.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's world class. I think he's been incredible this season, probably one of the best centre-backs in the league this season. Had a difficult time of it last season, but, he was surrounded by so many awful players, and it was so difficult to put out as many fires as he had to when you've got Dyer and Davis and Doherty and all these people where they're just being beaten left, right and centre, and you've got all this space to cover, and you end up doing some rash challenges and stupid things. But you got to remember, his first season at Spurs was pretty great. When we got top 4, he was really good, and I think this season he's been brilliant. So, and I think he's taken that leadership role on really well, taking that responsibility. So clearly the management have belief in him. So I'm 5-star.
Next up is Brennan Johnson. We literally only signed him a few days ago. Hasn't played 1 game for Spurs. 55 million euros from Nottingham Forest. I mean, how the hell are we supposed to put him into a star? I think it's just unfair, any star that we put him in.
Yeah, probably. But he is there. Look, I'm guessing you just got to predict who's he going to contribute more than. Do you reckon he's going to contribute more than a Lamela, Bergwijn, Sissoko? Do we think he's going to contribute more than a Moura, Porro? And who's in the top three? Bissouma, Kulusevski, and Van de Ven. I don't think he's going to be contributing as much as them, in my opinion. But I think he will be contributing more than Bergwijn, Lamela,
It's also obviously a massive overpayment, in my opinion, for someone like Brennan Johnson.
Yeah.
So you got to take that into account as well. I think just to be safe, let's just put him in 3-star.
3-star makes sense to me.
All right, and the last two.
Oh, dear.
Oh, boy.
Hey, dearie me.
Oh, boy. The next one is Richarlison. 58 million from Everton. Oh. In his first season, he scored 1 goal right at the end against Liverpool. This season, I mean, he's already been dropped from the team. Heung-min took his first game against Burnley as the number 9, scoring a hat-trick where Richarlison failed to do anything. I mean, he just looked devoid of everything. First touch, everything just looks terrible. So unfortunately, as it stands right now, Richarlison is a 1-star signing.
It's hard to argue against that, to be honest. And I was a big advocate of signing Richarlison, but he's just been a disaster. There's no beating around the bush. Since he has signed, apart from some good performances early on when he scored a double against Marseille, I remember, against Fulham, I remember he came in and had a really good game. Like, at the start, he looked promising, but it's been a disaster. There's no doubt about it. So he's got to up his game about 5 levels this season if he's going to be anything worth anywhere near the value we paid for him. So he's been that bad. So has to be a 1-star now.
And last but not least, your favourite, Tanguy Ndombele, 62 million euros from Lyon in the 1920 season at the age of 22. Still currently on our book, seeing as he is out on loan at Galatasaray, but they do have an option to buy. Hopefully they will take it up. Seemingly he thought he was too good for the Turkish league pretty much throughout the window. But, I mean, this guy has been a disappointment pretty much ever since signing him, to be honest. He had a bit of a good spell, scored in his debut against Aston Villa, had a good run under Jose Mourinho for a little bit, but for the money we paid for him, what he's produced, the talent that he has and what he's actually produced on a football pitch, he's actually like a -5 signing.
Yeah, he's been such a disappointment, man. I mean, I was so excited for his signing. I still look at him now and think there is so much talent and potential there, and it is so frustrating how he just doesn't get the best out of himself and doesn't demand the best out of himself, and he's let his career slip away. Every manager's had complaints about attitude and work rate and work ethic and all these different things, and that's the most frustrating thing. It's not even like when he's been on the pitch a lot of times. I remember that time under Jose, that 20-game period or so, he was pretty good in that period, but it was never enough. It was never what he never fulfilled his potential anywhere near his potential.
Flashes of brilliance,
and it's just the work ethic and the attitude problems are what's going to make him a 1-star, unfortunately, because if he had any sort of work ethic about him, he would be a 5-star. But unfortunately, he's let his career slip away, and every manager's been pushing him aside. Has to be a 1-star.
All right, so Tanguy Ndombele goes into 1-star, and that concludes the tier list. So let's run through. You look at 1-star, you got Bryan Gil, Ryan Sessegnon, Sergio Reguilon, Roberto Soldado, Giovani Lo Celso, Davinson Sanchez, Richarlison, and Tanguy. So you've got 3 of the 1920. Our whole transfer window of 1920 has gone into 1-star. Crazy. 2-star, you've got Lamela, Bergwijn, Sissoko. 3-star, you got Moura, Porro, and Brennan Johnson. And 4-star, you have got Bissouma, Kulusevski, and Van de Ven. And then in 5-star, you've got Heung-min, James Maddison, and Cristian Romero.
The leadership group.
Yeah.
Just where they belong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair, but I'd love to know what the viewers think.
Yeah, so let us know in the comment section below your thoughts about the tier list. Where do you think these players should go in the star system? But thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.